Hi guys, welcome back. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Bunny and I stream my programming journey on Twitch and YouTube. I am trying to go the self-taught route of learning to program and hopefully getting a job as a software engineer. And so tonight what I wanted to do was explain my thought process for and solution for problem 20 on LeetCode valid parentheses. It is an easy problem. It's about checking if the input is valid. The question is, given a string S containing just the characters, open parentheses, close parentheses, curly brackets, open and close, square brackets, open and close, determine if the input string is valid. An input string is valid if open brackets must be closed by the same type of brackets, open brackets must be closed in the correct order, every closed bracket has a corresponding open bracket of the same type. So originally when I solved this, I set up a closed array with only the closed brackets. And then I had a valid array where I had the strings of this. And basically what I did was I checked if every one matched up. And when I was sitting down to record this video, I actually thought about what if I used a hash map, which is a dictionary. And so I'm approaching it in a similar fashion, but I'm hoping that this will be a little bit more readable and more easily understood. So I've already written the dictionary out. You can see that the key is the open brackets, and then the values are the closed brackets. And then I also have a temp array. So we're going to hop over to Excalidraw, and I'm going to kind of explain my thought process of this problem. Basically, what the problem to me is just matching. So we know that for all of the open brackets, we don't really need to do anything. So let's say we have this as the first part of the string, right? For the open brackets, we just check if it's an open bracket. And if it is, we move on to the next one. Then we get a closed bracket, right? So let's say we get this. So we need to make sure that this closed bracket, this one right here, matches the previous indexes or previous characters bracket. So they both need to be square bracket. But then let's go on to the next one. Let's say we have another square bracket, but this time it's open. So we just continue to move on, because as long as it's open, we can keep on going. It's when it's a closed bracket, we have to make sure that it is matched up. So let's say that we now have the curly bracket, and we check the curly bracket and it doesn't match. So what do? We would return false. Okay, so how we would write this with the dictionary is I basically thought of, okay, so we loop through, actually, I'm going to make comments. My mentor Turing actually has been working on how I approach code. So I have been practicing the design of the solution and pseudocode before actually going into the code. So we're going to loop through the string. Okay, and then if the string or if the value is a key, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to do anything special. All we would have to do is add the value to the temp list. Temp. So what this looks like is, let's say we have our, okay, let's say we have our drawing again. We have parentheses, close bracket, open bracket, and then open bracket, square bracket, close square bracket, open square bracket, right? And then we have temp, which is, we're just gonna name it T. So we would add, as we loop through, we would add, I'm gonna make this, oh, it should be fine. Okay, so we would add this to it, and then we would add this to it, okay? But then we get to this bracket, right? If we just added this, we're not actually checking anything. So if the value is a key, which is right here, okay, we just add to temp. However, let me get this. Else we would want to check if it matches the last item added to the list. So how would we do that? Well, first we need to make sure that temp actually has something in it, because if, let's say we have a test case of, this, right? We have a test case of a closed bracket. If we don't check that temp has a length to it, then when we try to check the last item added to temp, we're going to get an invalid or basically an error. So we need to first check if there is anything in temp, okay? Or I guess I should reword this. Check if temp is empty. Okay? If it is, we would return false. Why? Because it's not a valid string, basically. There's no matching open parentheses to the close parentheses. Another thing that we also need to be aware of is, again, the order. And I know I've been kind of mentioning that in passing, but there can be a test case of parentheses, square bracket, parentheses, closing square bracket. If we have this, this is still not a valid list or a valid input because they're not matching. So that's where my logic kind of came in of, we really only need to move down the list and check the last item. Okay, so then once we've made sure that the temp list is not empty, what we're going to do now is get the last item added. No matter what, we want to remove that last item, because if it's a matching item, we would move it off and don't even think about it anymore. If it's not a matching item, then obviously we would return false, right? So an example again is, so let's say we have temp, right? And we have, this is our test case. We have parentheses, square bracket, and then parentheses. So right now we have parentheses and then we have square bracket. So that's temp, right? And then we are now on the loop where we have this item. Okay, so we would check if this item matches this item. They do. However, if we don't do anything with this and remove it, we are not going to, when we get to the next one, so let's say we cross off that it's valid, right? But then we didn't remove anything from temp. And then we get to the next loop where iteration of the loop, we have this, but if we try and check the last one, it doesn't work. So this is where pop comes into play. And when you pop something from a list in Python, it returns the last item. And if you assign it to a variable, then you're able to continuously check with it. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're right here, right? So we want to assign temp.pop to a variable. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is check if valid variable, right, equals the current value, which is value. Okay, and we would want if it does not check, because if it does not check, then we would return false immediately. Okay, now after we're done with the loop, we also need to check if the temp list has anything left in it, because if our test case is this, and so we have two open parentheses, a square bracket, open parentheses, curly bracket, then we close that, we close the parentheses, and we close the square bracket, but then we have the two original ones, and we don't check to make sure that temp is empty, it's still going to be a false, even though technically our code would want to return true, right? So I'm going to check. Oops. Okay, so now after that, we're going to check if temp is empty. Okay. And then we're going to, or is not empty. Return false. I feel like I might actually be able to get that a little bit cleaner. And then lastly, all of the checks pass. We're going to return true. Okay. So we have the pseudocode now. And then let's start coding. Okay. So we can, so we're going to, we have the string, which is S. We're going to say for character in S. Okay. If char in valid dot keys, okay, then we're going to add temp dot append. So we append the character. Okay. Otherwise, if temp, if length of temp is equal to 0, we're going to return false. And then we're going to assign temp.pop to a variable. So we're going to just say bracket because we know that it's going to be a bracket character, which equals temp.pop. And then we're going to check if valid bracket does not equal the value, which is character, we're going to return false. Okay, and then we're going to check if temp or if length of temp is greater than 0, we're going to return false, else we're going to return true. Okay, and then as you can see, all of the test cases pass. I don't think I have, let's see. String length is always going to be 1. Okay, S's consists of parentheses only of these. Okay, so we can remove this, all of the comments. I mean, we could keep them in there too as well. However, I've noticed with this new way of approaching my coding, it's a lot easier to write the code. Granted, I do sometimes get confused on the design portion and I still fail a lot of tests, but I usually can actually debug a lot quicker. So I'm really liking this new approach that I've been kind of taught, and let's submit it and see how we did. Watch, I fail a test case. Hey, oh, it was actually a lot slower than, oh, 6 milliseconds. Okay, 6 milliseconds is not anything to worry about, I think. Yeah, so my original one with the list was faster, but I was also told, oh, what if you submit again? And let's see. Okay, yeah, so between 0 to 7 milliseconds, I was told not to worry about it, but here is my solution and how I approached it. So if you liked what you saw, please consider giving me a thumbs up on the video so I know that this is something that people want to see, and consider giving me hitting that subscribe button. I appreciate you guys. Bye. See you next time.